So, listening to media famous scientist Al-Khalili, who's talking about the Austrian physicist Ludwig Boltzmann, and the idea that all matter is made of atoms. But he says something about this thing that is not a thing that all humans think is a thing, and it's not a thing, called heat.
Clausius realized that not only was there a fixed amount of energy in the universe, but that the energy seemed to be following a very strict rule. Put simply, energy in the form of heat always moved in one particular direction. This insight of his is in fact one of the most important ideas in the whole of science. As Clausius put it, heat cannot of itself pass from a colder to a hotter body.
So heat passes from a colder to a hotter body.
Idea. If left alone, this hot mug of tea will always cool down. What this means is that heat will pass from the hot mug, say, to my hand, and then again from my hand to my chest.
Now that's bullshit. Why is that bullshit? That's bullshit because if you take a camera that will show heat, a heat sensitive camera, and you take an ice cold spoon and put it in a hot mug of tea, you can watch how you can see maybe in colors on the screen represented, you can see a movement of energy, what looks like to be a movement of energy that's moving along the spoon as the spoon's warming up in the hot mug. Yeah, so you see from where the spoon's gone in, from the outside going into the inside, from the bottom going up to the top, something moving. Nothing is moving. What is happening is that every adjacent atom in the spoon is touching the next atom and absorbing heat from the atom adjacent to it, and it is slowly altering. Nothing is moving. It's just altering its state, its static state. Well, it's not completely static, but seen on this, not quantum, but micro level, not a quantum micro, but primary micro level. Yeah. If you take a red hot iron bar, yeah, and put ice on one side, you'll watch it starting, it'll be red on one side, on the other side it'll start going deep blue color, steel blue, right? So you think that heat's moving along from one end to the other, running away from the cold end? No, there's no such thing as heat moving. Heat is not a thing, and it's not moving along the iron bar. What's happening is that the iron bar is there all the time. All of the atoms in it are there all the time. And they're just, some of them get cooler, yeah, and some faster, and some of them get cooler more slowly. The ones that are most adjacent cool down faster, and the ones that are furthest away cool down later, when the ones adjacent to them have also cooled down first. So all you're seeing is actually an array of events, of cooling events, of non-moving parts within the iron bar, particles, yeah, or moving or not moving, but in their place from one end to the other, right? There's no such thing as heat moving along a piece of metal. You just have the static piece of metal, and the atoms and particles in it start to cool down. The heat doesn't move. That's an illusion. And scientists are measuring some heat movement. No, they're not. They're measuring something that is not a movement of heat. They're measuring a changing of state. And they think they're watching heat moving along a line. They actually think heat is a thing itself. It is not a thing. Heat is not a thing. Heat is an emission of energy. It is a thing. It's an energy emission. But the iron bar can be hot. So can my sock. Yeah. So can my teaspoon. Yeah. So can a glass bottle. Yeah. A saucepan. A volcano. Yeah. Earth can be hot. It's lava. So it's not. If you see a rock cooling down, on one point it's red glowing, and you see the red glow slowly getting smaller, that's not the heat moving away. It's the object cooling down. So John Al-Khalili and all the rest of you quantum physicists out there, stop measuring something that you've created that doesn't exist, such as gravity, heat. It's just energy. And the heat is not a specific existing thing that can travel along any object at all. There's no such thing as heat, therefore it cannot travel. Heat is produced. There is a thing as heat, but heat is not a thing that exists independent of itself, independent of the metal that is hot. If you don't make the metal hot, there is no heat. Heat is not something that passes through metal. Heat is something that can be rendered to metal, yeah? A lesser or greater heat. We all have a certain temperature. It's called temperature, not heat. And temperature changes. It doesn't travel. The heat is moving from my teacup into my hand. No. The molecules of your hand adjacent to the hot tea mug are adjusting their temperature to balance themselves so that they become this. The tea mug will cool down and your hand will warm up until they're both the same temperature, which is what the universe wants to do, balance everything out. That's all it's doing all the time, equalizing and balancing everything out. Heat traveling along the cup into my hand. It just invented something that doesn't exist. Heat does not exist in that sense. Your hand heats up and the mug cools down accordingly through the transfer of energy, but not transfer of heat. Not transformation, of energy, not the transfer of heat. It's just the state of energy is cooling down. Heat's not moving anywhere. John Al-Khalili. Go back to Al-Bedouin. Heat is not a tangible asset, something that exists in itself, and it definitely doesn't travel. It's just things moving or static change temperature, and heat is emitted through the molecules vibrating, but it doesn't travel.